I know that Dye Jones looks after a significant number of investors on the rent roll. What are the investment managers doing to assist them with, I guess, ensuring their yields are as high as possible and that they don't have any layover of tenants?
I think a good investment manager would be making sure that their client's property has a lease in place, so there's no surprises. So proactively actually looking at when a lease ends, making communication with the tenant, negotiating a new term, a new contract, and actually getting that lease signed again. Because you don't want to have a situation where the lease has run out, it's on a periodic agreement, and all of a sudden a tenant gives notice and your client gets a vacant property. And that in itself carries costs and vacancy factor. So that would certainly be one thing I would think that a good investment manager would be looking at to make sure they protect the return of their client.
Clients, they're concerned about the yield of their property decreasing, but that's all part of the peaks and troughs of the property market. Like, the famous saying, it's time in the market, not time in the market, that's important. So if you look at a 30-year hold on a property, you make 60% capital gains in the last 10 years of owning the property. So the way the compounding growth works, the way the compounding interest works, is the longer you hold that property, the better off you're going to be. So you're always not going to have high yield on a property, but the idea eventually is to pay that debt down to a level at which is a cash flow positive at retirement. It might not be right now, but the strategy should be long term. And obviously, looking at things that happen short term is never going to be a good idea.
So I suppose for our investors, or many who have bought in relatively recent times, the last 13 rate rises for many is the first time they've actually seen an increase in holding costs. And that can come as a big shock when you're servicing a mortgage and relying on the rent being paid by your tenant. So I think, anything that a good investment manager can do to make sure that their client is getting the best return is what a good agency should be doing at the moment.
From an assessment perspective at the bank as well, most clients can't afford to keep an investment property without the rent. So obviously yield is very important, but at the same time, if you look at the last 12 months, property prices in Sydney have increased 10%. So there's a bit of a catch-22 there. So for us, it's more about educating the client about the whole property journey and not just looking at the last 12 months.
Sure. Christian, thank you so much for today. Really enjoyed having you here and look forward to speaking to you next time.
Thank you for having me.